I would like to acknowledge that I am recording this video on the land of the Wadawurrung people. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay respects to their elders past and present. Thank you for being custodians of this beautiful place that I am lucky to call home. As of recording this video, it is 2 weeks until the Bell Riots, a fictional event in the Star Trek universe. I would like to believe that while many things about our current reality may be much more complicated and arguably worse than Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, imagined, the possibilities for a wonderful future are also much greater. For those not familiar with the overall premise of Star Trek, Gene envisioned humanity progressing to a post-scarcity society. Let me say that again, to a post-scarcity society in which the basic needs of everyone are taken care of as a matter of course. I believe we're right on the cusp of achieving such a world, and it's potentially even better than Gene ever imagined. However, there are some enormous changes that are going to need to happen before we can get there. The stories we tell reflect our history. They also shape our future. We've been telling ourselves many scary stories of apocalypse and ruin, and our hope is that by telling these stories in fiction, we can avoid the worst. We haven't told ourselves quite as many stories of a glorious future, perhaps because it can be more difficult to imagine. If we can imagine it together, though, we can create it. Humanity has proved this time and time again. Every amazing invention that has improved our lives started as a concept in someone's mind and was realized through continuous effort fueled by that vision. So without further ado, I'd like to describe the world that I can see just over the horizon and that more and more people are beginning to imagine could be possible. As I speak, I would like to invite you to open your heart and mind to the possibilities. You don't have to take my word for it that this future is likely. Just please consider that it might be possible. This video may also bring up a lot of anger and grief. As if you have clicked on this video, you're probably well aware of how much suffering there currently is in this world. I would like to acknowledge that this suffering is very, very real, and that meaningful change may be very difficult and painful. While acknowledging this, I would also like to hold open the possibility that it doesn't have to be painful or difficult, that if enough people imagine a wonderful future and work together, we may transform our societies and our planet for the better more quickly than any of us dare to hope for. This imagining process is going to be in 2 stages. Starting with stage 1, let's do away with the myth of scarcity. Our planet currently produces enough food to feed 10.5 billion people, which is way more than enough. And yes, I realize that part of the difficulty there is distribution, but we'll get to that. If we put a large solar plant in the Sahara Desert, we could generate enough energy to run the entire planet. We can also now produce nuclear energy cleanly, safely, and with a minimum of waste to dispose of. We have the technology to recycle almost all of the nuclear waste. China recently created a plant that was shown to be able to automatically shut down its reaction in case of an accident. In short, we have numerous options for producing an abundance of energy for all our collective needs. We're not quite there yet with weaning ourselves off fossil fuels, and this video is not going to go into the politics behind all that. I'm sure you're well aware of all that. The main thing I want to focus on is that the technology already exists to have everything we ever needed and wanted. All we got to do is build the rest of the infrastructure, because amazing humans have already been busy getting us all started with that. We have plenty of housing for everyone. In my home country of Australia, we have 900,000 empty homes and 13 million spare rooms. 13 million spare rooms. We only have about 30 million people in this country, so clearly we're not short of housing actually. The homelessness and the cost of housing problem is a manufactured one, and one that makes me boil with rage. Every human should have a home without question. We have more than enough water for everyone. It's just a matter of providing enough desalination plants in certain areas to make sure everyone has enough clean, fresh water. A final issue I'd like to talk about is rest. I would say that above all these other issues, the most common lack in humanity is the chance for adequate rest. Whether you're struggling to rest because you don't have a safe home, or because you're working far too hard to provide for yourself and your family, it's clear that almost all of us are utterly exhausted. And this is the biggest part of the scarcity myth I'd like to bust. Apparently, with current technology, adult humans only need to be working a collective average of 20 hours per week to provide for the needs of everyone. Let me say that again. Currently, we could all be working 20 hours per week and everyone would be getting what they need. As technology develops, that number will steadily approach 0 hours per week. Circling back to the beginning and the issue of distribution of food again. Distributing food is a problem potentially solved by automation, just like almost all areas that currently rely on human labour. So in stage 1, I'd like you to imagine that these resources and the labour to produce them are all fairly distributed. Imagine that your home, your food, your clean drinking water, and the energy needs of your house were all provided for free. And then imagine that no one needed to work more than 20 hours per week to have all this, and that those unable to work that at all, or up to 20 hours, were also supported and provided for. For those working, that's 5 hours per day for only 4 days a week, giving you a nice short working day and a 3-day weekend. Homelessness no longer existing. Everyone having access to nutritious food and clean water as a matter of course. Let's take a few breaths together and relax into this imagination. Whether you can see issues with getting there or not, I invite you right now to let those go and just breathe with me. Breathe and imagine that it is possible. So here's where this visioning process gets really exciting for me. The thing about everyone having what they needed provided for is that suddenly we have an exponential increase in the inventive and creative potential of humanity. Think about where we've come from. Despite the enormous issue of scarcity, which once upon a time was a genuine issue, we have come up with inventions and innovations that allow us to live at a standard of living already better than at any time in our history. And that was despite the vast majority of people with innovative minds being stuck working exhausting menial jobs just to survive. Can you imagine what happens if all of those minds and the passion behind them are freed up to do exactly what they're excited about? I'm not exaggerating when I say that it won't be long until we've solved every single problem that humanity is currently facing, and gotten started on a few we haven't even thought of yet. As a demonstration of what I mean, I'd like to talk about my home country, Australia. We have a very small population for our size, only about 30 million last I checked, while our land mass is about the size of the US. And yet we punch far above our weight when it comes to the contributions in fields like science and innovation. We also punched above our weight in gold medals at the recent Olympics, by the way, for the same reason. Why is this? It's because for the majority of my lifetime, there was a basic, reliable level of income support and free healthcare for everyone. I was quite sick when I was younger, and I spent many years of my life unable to work and needing to rest. At other times, I wanted to study, and I wasn't able to study and work at the same time because I wasn't well enough. But I was financially supported by the government through all of this, which made it possible for me to go on to have a 10-year teaching career after 4 years of study. The free healthcare made it possible for my health to improve considerably from what it would have been. And one of the many scientists helping us to punch above our weight is the person who discovered the low FODMAP diet, which has been utterly life-changing for me and saved me an enormous amount of ongoing pain. This diet was developed right here in Melbourne, where I grew up. My point with all of this is that because Australians have lived lives of relative privilege and plenty, we've freed up far more people to become scientists, innovators, gold medal athletes, basically all the things that humans are capable of being. I'm not trying to say we're without our problems here, oh no. Trust me, there are plenty of issues, not the least of which is that there is still no treaty between the First Nations people of Australia and the occupying government. So what I would like to imagine is that everyone on Earth is able to live a life of ease, with all basic needs met, regardless of their ability to contribute. In that world, we would soon find a way to transform our cities into wonderful places. I saw a project recently in Colombia where a city called Medellin, I'm not sure of pronunciation, has succeeded in cooling their city by 2 degrees by planting 2.5 million plants and 880,000 trees. Imagine if everyone who loves gardening were free to do nothing but garden and plant plants. We could turn every city into a beautiful green work of art and begin to sequester all that carbon at the same time. Imagine how good this would be for everyone's mental health, seeing green everywhere. Imagine the kind of things that would become possible if every scientific mind were free to explore their passion and didn't have to rely on grants for their own survival. We'd get a lot of kooky stuff being researched for sure. We would also see out-of-the-box thinking on so many issues. Imagine if we had an easy solution to all that plastic. The unsolved health problems of our world could be done in a few decades. As someone whose chronic illness, myalgic encephalitis, has received very little funding for research, I enjoy this possibility especially. There are millions of people in every country who are housebound or bedbound by this awful illness. Imagine if they were healed. Imagine if all the sick people were healed. You would have an army of people who know how to pace themselves and how to rest, freed up to teach everyone how to appreciate the simple things in life, like being able to make your own piece of toast or pour your own cup of tea or coffee. I could go on and on with exploring the possibilities because they're endless. I would like to invite you to imagine what is possible. Just think of a problem and imagine how the world would look if that problem was solved. There's no end to this. And remember to come back to your own life and how it would look. Imagine if all your basic needs were met and you didn't have to struggle. Imagine you could spend time with your loved ones, getting all the rest you needed. And when you do go to work, it's for sustainable hours and you're able to do work that you love. Just breathe into that possibility and consider that this might be just years away from realization, or maybe only months, weeks, days. In our imaginations, it can be only a heartbeat away. And the moment enough of us can see this future clearly, it will begin to manifest into reality. Our collective mind will find solutions together. We just have to get ourselves in sync. And getting in sync begins with having a shared vision. Now, as I've been talking, I like to hope that everyone listening has been getting as excited as me about the possibilities. However, I'm also well aware of just how painfully difficult things are right now and how much suffering currently exists. So I'd also like to invite you to allow the grief and anger that you may be feeling to exist. We do nobody any favours to deny reality or to wear rose-coloured glasses and ignore our own suffering or the suffering of others. If this resonates for you, I'd like to suggest that this grief and anger is your best direction to take right now and what will best help everyone. By this, I don't mean getting trapped in grief and anger, as they can be endless in a world full of so much pain. Rather, I'm suggesting that you spend enough time exploring these feelings to the point where they fuel you to take action. Maybe there's some work of art or self-expression that you're waiting to come out of your deepest self. Or perhaps you just need to have a really good cathartic release of all those emotions so that you can get some really good rest. Never underestimate the power of resting. The powers that try to keep us trapped in scarcity mindset also try to fuel our exhaustion to prevent us from finding our own power to create change. Therefore, every moment that you spend in rest is an act of resistance. So let me leave on this note. If you take nothing else from this video, please allow yourself the grace to rest. Thank you for listening. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're helping to create positive change. Even if you don't agree with a single word I've said, you're still part of this visioning process. In fact, disagreeing with me is a powerful direction to take, because only by asking each other what is possible and challenging each other to find better and better solutions will we move in a better direction. Our diversity is our strength. I'd like to invite you to comment on this video. If you have anything that you either resonate with or disagree with, give me your thoughts, suggestions, or anything you're excited about after listening. Please also like and subscribe and share this video with anyone you think might find it useful. Thank you and goodbye.